Okay, so you want to take a deep dive into how aid impacts developing nations. And you really want to go beyond kind of like those simplified narratives that we hear.
Absolutely.
The excerpts you shared from Yash Tandon's book, Ending Aid Dependency,
Yeah,
that's a
that's a good one.
fantastic starting point.
It is.
He really digs into the complexities.
He doesn't hold back, does he?
No.
He kind of gets to the heart of it by
Yeah.
saying that traditional aid can actually hinder real development.
Wow.
And he backs it up with these compelling historical examples, insightful analysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right off the bat, he uses this really interesting
Yes.
color-coded system
I love that.
to categorize different types of aid
Yeah.
based on their motivations.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine a rainbow of aid,
Hmm.
right? Each color kind of representing
Representing a different agenda.
a different agenda.
Yes.
And we've got violet aid,
Mm-hmm.
which is driven by genuine humanitarian concern.
Okay.
We've got blue-green aid,
Yeah.
which is focused on technical expertise and knowledge sharing.
Okay.
Then you've got orange aid,
Right.
which is all about
Opening up markets.
opening up markets.
Yeah.
And then there's the red and yellow aid,
Yes.
which
And that's what we're going to unpack today.
we are going to unpack today.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's,
Yeah.
peeled back the curtain
Yes.
to reveal kind of the hidden machinery behind these, what we think are
Right.
well-intentioned gestures.
Yes, exactly. And I think what
Okay.
Tandon highlights with Red Aid
Right.
is the potential
Yeah.
for ideology to kind of mask self-interest.
Okay.
So he argues that this type of aid,
Mm-hmm.
which is often driven by a desire to spread a particular political or economic system,
Right.
can actually create dependencies
Okay.
rather than empowering nations to chart their own course.
Interesting, because it's that, that old saying,
Yeah.
give a man a fish and you feed him for a day.
Yeah, yeah,
Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
that's it.
And I feel like with what he's saying with Red Aid, it's like
Yeah.
we're giving a man a fish, but we're also like,
Yeah.
but we're subtly controlling
fishing rod.
the fishing rod.
Yes, exactly. And it makes you wonder, right,
Then-
about the motivations behind some of these aid programs
Yeah.
we see in the news today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
It's a form of, neocolonialism where
okay.
aid becomes a tool to shape developing nations in the donor's image
Okay.
rather than
Go to-
supporting their own vision
Yeah.
for progress.
Okay.
And this actually goes back to ideas explored by Edward Said
Oh, right.
in Orientalism.
Okay, yeah.
The way that powerful nations impose their narratives on others.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's red aid.
Yeah.
And then you've got yellow aid,
Okay.
which feels even more relevant in today's geopolitical climate.
Okay.
This type of aid is all about
So this is like strategy. Security.
security, securing influence.
Yeah.
Think of it like a chess game
Okay.
with aid as the pawns moved around the board to gain an advantage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not really about
Like
That's the-
needs of the recipient.
that nation.
It's about the donor country's
Yeah.
strategic interests.
And this is where I think Tandon's case study of Zimbabwe
Really hits home.
really hits home,
Yeah.
because he uses it to illustrate how
Mm-hmm.
even well-intentioned aid
Right.
can have devastating consequences when it's entangled with all of these kind of
Right.
hidden agendas.
Just like Zimbabwe, this country,
Yeah.
once considered a beacon of hope
Right.
for post-colonial Africa,
Yeah.
experiences this dramatic economic decline.
Where Tandon links it
Yeah.
directly to the interplay of these various types of aid.
Wow.
He's saying that, there were genuine attempts at development, right? Violet and yellow aid, we're seeing those.
Yeah.
But these efforts were undermined by political maneuvering
Okay.
and the imposition of policies that ultimately benefited
Right.
external actors
Wow.
rather than
More than the Zimbabwean people.
the Zimbabwean people.
It's a cautionary tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
That aid is never a simple equation.
No.
There's always these complex power dynamics,
Always.
historical legacies, unintended consequences to consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot to think about.
Yeah, definitely. So Zimbabwe's story is really like a stark reminder.
Of these larger trends that Tandon's uncovering here,
Right.
where aid,
Yeah.
even when well-intentioned,
Right.
can become entangled with
Yes.
power dynamics
Absolutely.
and hidden agendas.
Absolutely.
But then it gets even more complicated
Yeah.
when we start looking at the bigger picture.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And he challenges us to look beyond the surface,
Okay.
beyond those headlines,
Yeah.
about billions of dollars in aid flowing to developing nations,
Right.
he says those figures can be very misleading.
Okay.
It masks a more complex reality
Right.
that he calls reverse flow.
Okay, unpack that for me a little bit.
Okay.
What is reverse flow?
So basically,
Yeah.
more resources are flowing from the south to the north
Wow.
than the other way around.
Yeah.
So think about it.
Okay.
Developing countries are often saddled with massive debt repayments, right?
Right.
Unfavorable trade agreements that benefit wealthier nations.
Right.
Brain drain,
Right.
where their brightest minds are leaving for better opportunities elsewhere.
Right.
And these factors represent a significant drain on resources
I see.
that overshadows the inflow of traditional aid.
So it's like this kind
It's
of
like this hidden system where on the surface,
it appears like aid is helping,
yeah,
but the economic realities tell a very different story.
right. And this is what fuels his desire, like his call for this radical shift in our approach to development.
He's not content with just tweaking the existing system.
Right.
He wants to fundamentally transform it.
Yeah.
And that's where his solutions come in.
This is what I think is so interesting.
Yeah.
Is that he doesn't just critique.
He doesn't just critique.
He actually offers alternatives, right? He does, like he's saying, okay,
This is what we can do.
yeah, what we can do instead, right?
Exactly.
So what are some of the key pillars then
Okay.
at his vision?
One of the most compelling
Yeah.
is this idea of a domestic market focus.
Okay.
He challenges developing nations
Yeah.
to shift away from this dependence on exports
Okay.
to wealthy countries
Right.
and instead prioritize
Yeah.
building strong internal economies
Okay.
that cater to the needs of their own people.
So basically building from within.
Building from within.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to relying on those
As opposed to being dependent.
on those external forces, right?
And this kind of goes hand in hand with his idea of
This idea of South cooperation.
South cooperation.
Yes.
When you say that, you mean like increased collaboration and support.
Exactly, between developing nations themselves.
Okay, so it's like they're
Working together.
working together.
Sharing knowledge, resources, technology.
Instead of just solely relying
On traditional donor nations.
those donor nations.
Yes.
He talks about the BRICS nations
He does.
as an example of this.
He sees groups like BRICS,
Yeah.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa
Right.
as potential challengers.
Challengers to that existing global power structure.
So showing that there are other...
It's demonstrating that alternative models of development are possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he links this South-South cooperation to
Yes.
a set of principles.
Yeah. He calls them
He calls Panchil.
Panchil.
Can you kind of elaborate on what that means?
Sure. Panchil,
Yeah.
which translates to 5 principles of peaceful coexistence,
Okay.
emphasizes mutual respect,
Okay.
non-interference in internal affairs,
Right.
equality among nations,
Okay.
mutual benefit.
It's about recognizing the agency and the sovereignty of all nations, allowing them to determine their own path.
It feels very refreshing in a way. Yeah.
Compared to what we normally hear.
Exactly.
For aid and development.
It's like we're getting away from that, kind of. Like,
it requires a fundamental reevaluation of the role of these powerful international institutions, too.
Okay.
Like the IMF and the World Bank.
Right, because they're often presented as like...
He argues that these institutions, while they say they're neutral arbiters of development, actually perpetuate the dependency that they claim to alleviate by imposing policies that benefit primarily wealthy nations and corporations.
So, I mean, that's a bold statement to make.
It is.
Suggesting that true progress requires not just kind of like tweaking the system.
Right, but overhauling it.
Overhauling the power dynamics that underpin it.
But how realistic is this vision?
Right.
I mean, it's great. Like, he's laying out all these, like, compelling arguments.
Yeah.
But he also acknowledges, I'm sure, like...
He does.
The challenges of shifting from, like, something so deeply entrenched, right?
And shifting away from this model of dependency to one of genuine partnership and sustainable development.
Like, where do we even begin?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really is, like, the heart of the issue, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't, he doesn't shy away from it. He says, like, look, if we're going to end aid dependency, we need a fundamental shift in our mindset.
Right.
It's not about charity.
Right.
It's about...
It's about, like, our shared
partnership, solidarity.
That's humanity, right?
Shared humanity.
Yeah, like we
got to recognize that
we are all in this together.
That these global challenges,
and it's not us
helping them.
Yes, exactly.
It's like we're all kind of like
we're all interconnected.
And development shouldn't be imposed.
It can't be.
It's got to come
imposed from the outside.
From within.
Yes, it has to come from within.
But I feel like what you were saying is that this shift needs to happen.
It has to happen on multiple levels, right?
On multiple levels.
From how we perceive this issue.
Right.
To the policies of nations.
Right.
To the structures of these global institutions.
So he's not just talking about, like, individuals. No, it's much broader than that.
He's talking about, like...
He's talking about systems.
Systems.
Entire systems, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a huge task.
It's a huge task.
How realistic is that, really?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And I think he acknowledges that. He lays out these compelling arguments.
Right.
But he also says, look, this is going to be incredibly difficult to shift away from these entrenched systems.
Right, because they've been around for so long.
They've been around for centuries.
And so it's like, where do we even begin?
And that's where I think he leaves us with kind of his most provocative thought.
Okay.
He doesn't give us a step-by-step guide.
Because there isn't one, right?
There isn't one.
Yeah.
He says we need to grapple with these complexities. We need to question our assumptions.
Question everything.
Engage in self-reflection.
Yeah.
And consider what would it take personally, nationally, globally to actually break free from these models.
To get to a place where...
And create a world where aid is no longer necessary because we've achieved
a genuine partnership.
Sustainable development.
That's a beautiful idea.
It is.
It's a beautiful thought.
It's a process.
It's definitely a process.
And it's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It was great. Really great to have you.
It was my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for...
Keep those questions coming.
Yes. Keep questioning.
Keep learning.
Keep learning. Keep striving for a better world.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.